contributors. Callers to the program accept full responsibility for the views expressed. The show host and affiliates are not liable for any statements made or any harm claimed. All callers to the program indemnify Straight Talk from all claims. Offensive, defamatory, or unlawful content will not be tolerated. Be a part of the conversation by calling 745-2626. Now, here's Straight Talk with Austin and Ellio on Bobo 103.1.
And welcome, K-Man, to another episode of Straight Talk here on Bobo 103.1 FM. I'm your host, Austin Harris.
And I'm Ellio Solomon, and welcome to Straight Talk. How are you today, Mr. Harris?
I'm well, Mr. Solomon. How was your, Wednesday? Yeah, that's right.
You always need a reminder just about around Wednesday.
We do, absolutely. You know, I got to keep
What day? Are we going forward or backwards here? What's happening?
That's right. No, it wasn't a bad day today. Again, I think it was another productive day. And I also timed it perfectly so that all of my outside excursions happened before noon, before the sun reached its apex, and therefore I cannot tell you whether it was surface of the sun or not.
There you go.
But there was some nice rain again last night for a little while, so the forecast held true. I was glad to see that.
Yeah, we did get a lot of rain. In fact, I ended up having to go east last night because I didn't make it during the day, and it actually rained in East End too.
Oh, wow. Now, there's a rare event.
I know, trust me.
That is
It doesn't happen all the time. Normally, you only get it if there's some bad weather. You don't get a lot of rain out there. I don't know why, poor East End.
That's right.
But, it was good rain, and we loved it. But, of course, that's meaning more mosquitoes, so I'm not quite sure what to say.
Don't know. Well, just taking a quick look, it seems like, the thing to do now, we've added a weather component sort of by accident in just our conversation.
To the good news?
To the good news, yeah, why not? I see from the National Weather Service that there is, in fact, a ridge of high pressure currently across the Northwest Caribbean. That may be one of the reasons why we've been experiencing slightly increased winds and seas, as we talked about yesterday, certainly noting it along the south coast of the island, though I didn't really see any kind of waves worth mentioning on the west side, least of all today. Again, it could have been there yesterday and disappeared. But in any event, a decrease in both winds and seas are expected as of tomorrow morning. Also, hazy conditions will continue to linger as the Saharan dust continues to spread across the Caribbean, which, again, as we determine, the more dust, the less storms. So bring on the dust,
I
baby.
just thought, let me just clarify. I heard that from you, Mr. Weatherman.
You did.
I'm taking your word on it.
Take my word for it, buddy. It is a fact.
If I ever get slammed, I'm going to, sorry, I got it from Austin.
Yeah, that's right. And Austin got it from
the other guy.
Somebody else, that were, actually, I think I got it from, you know where I got it? I'll tell you exactly where I got it. This was when we were first started to sort of investigate the whole airport renovation project. And one weekend, I spent a weekend speaking to aviation professionals, both those who largely were retired persons that I spoke to, but there were one or two persons that I spoke to who are still obviously practicing their trade.
So you're feeling you got this from good goods?
Yeah, no, it was. I can remember specifically the conversation. We were talking about it, and then we kind of diverted onto the weather. And one of the commentaries that came was, we'd just be grateful that, maybe we get more Saharan dust. And you go, why? And, of course, it was explained to me, well, more dust somehow having an effect at the low altitude level. Therefore, cloud formation is restricted. Don't ask me the science. I was just told that, the Saharan dust spreading through the region tends to otherwise calm down storm formation.
I'll tell you how
I can look it up on Google if you really wish, and we can, find the authentic,
I'll tell you how my logic would go on that one. A certain level of sand in the air or dust in the air, I would imagine, would help to prevent the sun rays from getting as much on the water and heating it up. Because I know the hot water has something to do with it, right? So that would be my logic on it. But hey, I stand to be informed. Shall I take this opportunity to just do a quick run outside, Mr. Harris, and check and see if somebody left their necklace in the kitchen?
No. Don't
sure?
worry about that. So
All right.
here we go. This is from the Stanford report. It says Saharan dust can reduce the chance of storm conditions, specifically tropical cyclones like hurricanes. The dry and dusty air layers can inhibit formation and intensification of storms by suppressing cloud formation and reducing the amount of moisture available to fuel them.
Right.
So again, in a sort of summarized version of what I just said that was explained to me, this is what the Stanford report suggests. It goes on to say, however, once a storm develops and makes landfall, Saharan dust can also contribute to heavier rainfall under certain conditions. So if the storm rolls in, if the dust rolls in whilst we have a system above us, then that same sand that in the one case may prevent it. Now the fact that there is dust in the lower atmosphere, it'll kind of soak it up, the water, and make it last longer. So it's a 50-50 shot.
I'm glad we did our investigation.
Well, you know.
So it seems my logic would have been right, because again, you have that, it says prevent cloud formation.
Yes.
And again, clouds are formed because the sun is heating up the water.
There you go.
So, yeah.
And you kind of need clouds to create rain. So there you go. No clouds, no rain. Perfect marriage.
We got it.
Just taking a look at your forecast for tonight. Again, partly cloudy skies expected, together with more dust haze, and that will present a 30% chance of showers. Temperatures will fall to the low 80s. Winds will be out of the east at 10 to 15 knots with higher gusts. Seas will be moderate to rough with wave heights of 4 to 6 feet. And the small craft advisory, which was put in place yesterday, remains in effect, and all small craft are being advised to exercise caution. We have a similar forecast for tomorrow. So, again, 30% chance of showers, temperatures in the upper 80s, winds out of the east at 15 to 20 knots. Just taking a look at the outlook. The outlook is for continued decrease in winds and seas through Thursday and Friday. A tropical wave located in the eastern Caribbean is expected to drift across the western Caribbean on Saturday, which will bring an increased chance of showers and cloudy skies over the weekend. So bring on the rain. As long as the rain is not accompanied by tropical storms and hurricanes, we are happy campers. So there you have it. 40 minutes past the hour of 4 o'clock is the time in studios. And now for even more good news. Plucked from the headlines.
Can it get any better?
It can get better. We got an opportunity to say congratulations to 4 Caymanian women, dude. 4 Caymanian women have been appointed as licensing and customer care officers at the Department of Vehicle and Drivers Licensing, that is DVDL. They are Brittany Logan, Dedra Mendez, Olivia Smith, and Nicole Chisholm. The officers will be stationed at various DVDL locations across Cayman, assisting customers with driver's licensing, vehicle registration, renewals, and general inquiries. DVDL Director David Dixon said he is thrilled to welcome them to the team, adding that they will be key in maintaining the high standards of service, being opportunities for Caymanians in meaningful, high-impact roles. Well, aside from the otherwise sanitized political comments coming from the leaders of these organizations, we want to send a great big heartfelt congratulations to Brittany Logan, Dedra Mendez, Olivia Smith, and Nicole Chisholm for continuing to move up the ranks, breaking through a bit further on that glass ceiling and furthering your career. Well done. And for those of you who might have the opportunity to actually go into DVDL.
I was going to say no better time.
No better time, exactly. And you know how we like the ladies, so I found 4 new excuses to go into DVDL this month and visit the ladies, say hello, and congratulations.
Quite a bit of news you're handing over today on Hump Day, Mr. Harris.
Well, it is Hump Day.
Heaven and Father, as sure as Christ died for the sinners, Austin.
That's right.
What am I going to do with you?
I don't know, man. I clearly need Jesus. That's all I can tell you.
I was there over the surface like a mosquito plane, and there you were.
There I was.
Reached up like Godzilla or King Kong and just crashed that thing.
Just threw it right out there. Just laid it on the table.
Yeah, boy.
Right.
What's the ugly underbelly?
The ugly underbelly.
Either way, yeah. Congratulations to those four lovely ladies. No better time than to go and get your car license inspected at this point in time. Mr. Harris is smiling. And we're moving on to better news.
The unmitigated goal of these two boys on the radio, I tell you. Some people are just shaking their head.
They're enjoying
boys
it.
will be boys,
In traffic, laughing.
Well, that's good, because you're in traffic. Who wants to focus on the bumper-to-bumper situation and instead get a bit of a laughter to go with it. The police were quite active today, so I see on social media. There was apparently another serious police chase. At last report, some 6 police officers were involved.
Oh, wow.
And, of course, there were...
LAPD style.
Yeah, they clearly was.
Shooting.
I don't know what was going on. I think they may even put up a roadblock or two somewhere.
Oh, wow.
We had motorists all, of course, interjecting their opinions.
This is too much excitement for a small island.
There's just too much excitement, exactly. Stay your butt at work and you can stay off the road. That was probably the reason, too many people on the roadways. If the police had their way, they would clear the road. That chase would have been over in a hot minute.
Quick o'clock.
Quick o'clock, exactly. A bit more serious good news. I think this is terrific good news. Certainly for both our fathers, I think, would appreciate this. We see Cayman is expected to launch a seafarers registry to honor maritime history. This was an article that appeared in today's Cayman Independent. Again, there's that word again. The Seafarers Registry for the Cayman Islands is set to be launched at a special event at the Georgetown Public Library's Historical Room on June 25th.
Someone's going to accuse you of having shares in that company.
Somebody probably will.
He should be.
I just like the writing style. I have no idea who's involved in it. It's completely, not
I think
deliberate.
That's Pablo.
But I do like the articles. Again, they have a really impressive business section. And it's just an informative read. So if you haven't checked it out yet, they're online, caymanindependent.com. Again, another shameless plug. No, we're not getting paid for it, though we probably should.
Probably should.
But
I'm gonna have to check that out though. caymanindependent.com.
Yeah, it's a well completed web page, and again, I like their articles. It's very informative. So, whoever may be behind it, congratulations, well done. I read it. I don't know who else does, but I certainly do. Anyway, the innovative online portal will be dedicated to preserving the stories and memorabilia of seafarers and their families. The event, which begins at 5:30 p.m. on June 25th, will feature digital displays, cultural performances, and curated exhibitions. Attendees will have the opportunity to learn how to explore the online Seafarers Registry, verify and or correct information that is already presently uploaded, as well as contribute their own maritime histories to the ongoing series. The submission will become part of a living digital archive, enriching the historical record with firsthand accounts from the community. The occasion will also coincide with International Day of the Seafarer, which recognizes the unique contribution made by seafarers from all over the world to international seaborne trade, world economy, and civil society as a whole. Persons wishing to gain more information about the Seafarers Registry and the various launch events, they can go online or contact Celebrate Cayman at gov.ky. So
that sounds really good.
It does sound really good, very innovative. I like it a lot. It sounds, and then when of course they mentioned Celebrate Cayman, I got to send a great big shout out to Mr. Alfonso Wright, who is obviously sitting sort of leading that organization. He got a number of I think really delightful Caymanians in the Celebrate Cayman organization, but certainly Alfonso Wright, former MP at one time in our district of Georgetown, as we once used to call it before the introduction of constituencies came about. But again, this sounds just like the kind of program that Alfonso and his team would otherwise dream up. And again, certainly, we love praising our seafarers, acknowledging our seafarers. We recognize, I think, what was it you said? Something about the first commerce that came to Cayman came by ship or something to that effect during the whole cruise birthing debate.
The Caymanian story began with a ship.
There you go. Quite right. The Caymanian story did begin with a ship. In addition to be, of course, perhaps arguably the first trade routes, the early economy of the Cayman Islands. The other thing our seafarers brought back, something you and I are certainly glad they did, they brought country music to the Cayman Islands.
Yep.
And that good old cry country music.
Don't get me started again, boy. He said, I love you till I die. Come on, baby. No, we love country music. Come on.
Yes, we do. Yes, we love singing it too.
You can't be from Cayman and Honduras for sure if you don't like country music.
That's right. There's
something wrong with you.
Something is definitely wrong with you. So we want to encourage as many members of the public who are able to certainly go down to the Georgetown Public Library on June 25th to experience this, I guess, digital historical feature that highlights the works of our seafarers, our forefathers who went before us, and really, launched the Cayman Islands into the first world that we now enjoy today.
I think that's totally awesome, and hopefully they'll have, everything in terms of the stories of these persons on there.
Yes.
Again, I think that's the part that's really inspiring. Again, persons will be reminded of the conversation we have with Huta.
Yes.
And again, talking about these intangible, these things that we can't see, really end up making a big tangible difference in our lives. And not just because our fathers might have been seamen, but just the fact that it's worth recording and it's worth being able to know that generations to come will be able to read and benefit from those stories. So totally awesome. I love it.
Yes, no, indeed. And then just one more final bit of good news with, again, government leading the way also from this time the business pages of the Cayman Independent. It says, government launches a campaign to recruit Caymanian teachers. The Ministry of Education and Training is launching a new campaign designed to boost Caymanian participation in the teaching profession. Education Minister Honorable Ralston Anglin said, the Future Teacher campaign is aimed at young people in education and will roll out in 3 phases beginning this month. It's Imagine teachers, and we already have a limited population pool. That makes the challenge even more acute. But for us, it's about getting our Caymanian, and the minister emphasized these, and I'm just certainly delighted that the government can, in fact, again, lead the way in this effort and in this search. But certainly when we talk about the rollover for civil servants, which is expected to roll out next year in January, already we're talking about certain carve-outs or exemptions. And clearly, the more Caymanians you have in those roles, then there's less people to exempt. Because Caymanians, I think
that was one of the groups that were being exempted.
Yes, teachers were being exempted. Police officers were being exempted as, just the general in terms of the 2 that we know of. But I suspect there will be many, many others that may very well be carved out. And that is what, really has critics sort of stating that, well, on the one hand, it's good news, but really by when it's all said and done, it really will have little effect at all. Well, I'm not prepared to be a pessimist entirely, but we also have to acknowledge that the Cayman Islands government, by nature, doesn't necessarily employ a heck of a lot of expatriates. I mean, in total, they have more Caymanians than they have expatriates working within the Cayman Islands government. Now,
we heard the figure of 1,400.
Yeah, now we may split hairs in terms of, whether that be Caymanian by grant or Caymanian by birth. But at the moment, until somebody changes the law, the law does not recognize.
As I was just sitting listening to you read that, my mind went on the 2 portfolios of Mr. Ralston Anglin. I'm saying, imagine that, finance, the government finance, and education.
Yes.
Those are huge.
Those are massive, massively important.
I was going to say extremely important.
Yeah. And again,
he will not be getting a lot of sleep, I think.
He probably will not. But, this is right up his alley. Again, Mr. Anglin, this is not his first rodeo.
He's definitely done the education.
He has done the education role before. I think he was Minister of Education, if I'm not mistaken, for 2 terms. Maybe I'm wrong.
I only know about one.
One, okay, maybe it was one. He just did such a great job the first time. It
just seemed like two.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, finance is, should come second nature to him.
Oh, yeah.
As an accounting professional, and already he's, been plying his trades in both of those areas, again, since taking office. So,
no, in nowhere at all do I question the competences of Mr. Anglin.
Yeah,
I'm just saying that's just a lot of work.
We might question his choice in terms of sharing, the good news and where he goes to share it, as opposed to gracing, our doors. But hey,
give him time.
Taste is taste. You can't
him time.
Can't buy good taste. You just can't.
Give him time.
We give him time. Well, hopefully he's listening and noting that we're not being critical of him, but quite to the contrary. We're praising his initiative so far, and likewise of the government in the majority. But of course, that honeymoon undoubtedly will soon come to a abrupt end, but not yet. It is 54 minutes past the hour of 4 o'clock, soon to be 5. Oh, my God.
Well, all I'm going to say is...
Some folks just, can't follow instructions.
Well, they're just eager to get in here with us all.
Clearly they are. And they're
we just talked about 4 other ladies.
And they're already on webcam, so, I mean, the whole world sees them by the door, so...
Yeah. But you know what I want to say really quickly? We're going to be having Miss World coming in.
Yeah, geez, a good thing. Let's surprise our listeners.
They're surprised. Come on, we already said it yesterday.
Yes.
I'm allowed to say it today.
You can. Go ahead and share the details.
No, you go ahead and share the details, but I just want to say to those persons who are listening, and we're going to have that discussion for half an hour. Want to encourage you to tune in, and then I want to talk about something after that. So I guess, what is that, 5:45-ish?
Yes.
I just wanted to tease that one, Mr.
That's
Harris.
right. Well, again, coming up at 5 o'clock, and for those of you who are joining us on streaming video, as we simulcast live, as always, on both YouTube and Facebook, some of you will have already seen that our 5 o'clock guests have, in fact, just arrived. And while they're not quite in studio yet, we see you. One of the drawbacks of having a glass door is that not only do we see you, but everybody else sees you as well. We tried to hide them in the.
I was watching something where the guy starts to talk about the other way. He's like, "I'm hearing you.
I'm hearing you. I see you.
I see you.
I see you. You're not kidding anyone. You're right there. Your magic trick.
The window
garbage.
is not tinted."
Indeed. Well, clearly our window is not tinted.
And they weren't doing anything weird.
Coming up at 5 o'clock, we will have the pleasure of hosting Miss World Cayman Islands, Miss Jada Ramon, talking to us about her experience and journey, both of course, wearing the crown of Miss World here in the Cayman Islands, what that experience has been like, and more importantly, her recent journey to India, where she recently competed in the final of the 72nd annual, I believe, Miss World India competition, in which the Cayman Islands, not only in attendance, but they experienced a number of firsts for Cayman, in particular in the pageant realm. Miss Jada Ramon herself certainly being a trailblazer in both respects, and we are going to share what those historical events were and why they are of peculiar importance for us as Caymanians to celebrate, but also for the event and organizers of Miss World Cayman Islands. So coming up after the break in just about 2 minutes, we will have our first guest of the week, Miss World Cayman, Miss Jada Ramon, will be our guests in studios. With 1:50 remaining,
minute to win it.
A minute to win it. What do you got? Anything you got to say?
But no, the only thing I want to say is, like I said, stay tuned. We want to be chatting with Miss World. It's going to be a wonderful discussion, I'm sure, short and sweet.
Yes.
And I want to touch on this issue about this court case with the people being brought in with the what was it? It was trafficking, human trafficking. It was an accomplice.
Oh yes. No, that
I want to chat about that.
Yeah, that is
deserving of some commentary. Let's put it that way.
Absolutely. It certainly does. And that whole human trafficking issue is a really troubling issue. And we have, regrettably, some experience in that regard as well. But when we begin our substantive discussion on the issues, certainly, as my colleague pointed out, we will talk about certain convictions that, according to the courts, have been allowed to stand. But also sentences have been reduced as those persons who have been convicted for human smuggling bring their case for appeal before the courts. That discussion will commence after we have had the chance to chat with Miss World Cayman. So at 59 minutes now past the hour of 4 o'clock, we are going to pause, take a short commercial break, check in with our news partner, the BBC, to see whether or not Donald J. Trump got his unconditional surrender from Iran or whether we are headed towards World War III. We just don't know. But keep it locked. There'll be more Straight Talk still to come. The phone lines are open at 745-2626 here on Bobo FM.
Bobo.
How can we understand the world better?
The BBC World Service is a window onto the wider world.
A vantage point from which to survey a new horizon.
News, reports, and analysis from around the world.
Stories we think matter.
Different people from different societies.
We get to the heart of global issues.
News, stories, and global perspectives from the BBC World Service.
The home of the BBC World Service. This is Bobo FM. The BBC is the world's most trusted news source. And Bobo 103.1 is where you'll find the BBC World Service.
BBC News, the world news from the BBC.
And the home of Cayman's most listened to top shows.
That's right, folks. Everyone is telling their mama about the cold hard truth.
And welcome to Straight Talk. I'm your host, Austin Harris.
And I'm Ellio Solomon.
Across Cayman, on FM, online, and on your smart speaker. This is Bobo 103.1.
Welcome to our newsroom here in central London. We place ourselves here at a little desk right in the thick of things.
OS from the BBC.
We can catch the very latest news from our colleagues, not just in this enormous room, but also from our colleagues around the world.
I'm in the room where they're treating children.
This is a combat zone.
The situation after the typhoon is very complicated.
It was a very tense situation.
OS from the BBC.
The home of the BBC World Service. This is Bobo FM. This is Bobo 103.1, powered by Health Services Authority.
At Health Services Authority, they are committed to caring for you. They are Cayman's largest and longest-standing healthcare provider, offering the most comprehensive range of inpatient, outpatient, and public health services at 9 different locations across all 3 islands.
Across Cayman on 103.1 FM, online, and on your smart speaker. The home of the BBC World Service. This is Bobo 103.1.
Pull hamstring muscles and all sorts of things.
Can Rod Stewart break the 100 metres record for the over 80s? First, our top stories.
Hello, I'm Eileen McHugh with the BBC News. President Trump is meeting his National Security Council again as he weighs up the pros and cons of joining Israel's military campaign against Iran. Earlier, Mr. Trump said he didn't want to fight, but would rather do that than let Iran develop a nuclear weapon.
Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. I've been saying it for a long time. And I think they were a few weeks away from having one. And they had to sign a document. I think they wish they signed it now. It was a fair deal. But, it's very, I say it very simply. Iran can't have a nuclear weapon. Too much devastation. And they'd use it. I believe they'd use it.
Diplomatic channels may still be open to Tehran, with reports that the foreign ministers of Germany, France and Britain will meet their Iranian counterpart in Geneva on Thursday. President Putin, a close ally of Iran, has called for all sides to look for ways to end the fighting. The Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has said his forces are making steady headway towards eliminating the threat posed by Iran. Israeli warplanes have again been targeting nuclear and ballistic missile sites, as well as symbols of the Iranian regime. The defence minister said a police headquarters in Tehran had been destroyed. Iran's ambassador to the United Nations in Geneva, Ali Bahraini, told the BBC that Tehran remained defiant in the face of Israeli attacks.
Our military forces have been prepared for this scenario. It is not a new thing.
because we have lived with the Israeli threats and our military forces have been prepared for such a situation. Therefore, our military forces have responded and will continue to respond very efficiently and as far as it is needed.
The US Federal Reserve has left its key interest rate unchanged at around 4.3%. The Fed chair, Jerome Powell, said the central bank would make better decisions if it waited a few months. Erin Delmore is in New York.
No big surprises today from the Federal Reserve. The committee is standing pat on interest rates, largely because Fed Chair Jerome Powell said it's hard to see where the U.S. economy is going. The concern is that unemployment and inflation are both ticking upward, and that threatens to slow growth in the U.S. We're weeks away from the deadline President Trump has set on tariff exemptions, and that's injecting more uncertainty into the picture. President Trump has been criticizing Chair Powell as being too late to cut interest rates. The government also has $7 trillion worth of debt that needs to be refinanced this year.
The US drug regulator has approved a new preventative medicine against HIV. The long-acting drug, lenacapavir, needs only to be taken once every 6 months. And the chairman of its developer, Gilead Sciences, said the decision by the Food and Drugs Administration was a historic moment in the fight against the virus. This is the World News from the BBC. Scientists have, for the first time, identified the skull of a Denisovan, an archaic type of human of which little has been known. The skull has a strong brow ridge and a brain as large as modern humans, but looked more like a Neanderthal. The fossil is almost 150,000 years old and was shown to be Denisovan on the basis of ancient molecules. Thousands of people have rallied in Buenos Aires in support of Argentina's convicted former president, Cristina Fernández de Kirchner. Her followers waved banners and national flags under the slogan Argentina with Cristina. The crowd heard an audio message from her saying those in power could lock her up, but could not lock up the Argentine people. Daniel Catalano is from the Buenos Aires Workers' Association.
They tried to kill her, but failing that, they've now imprisoned her. We are emboldened, witnessing her unwavering strength. We will tirelessly advocate for her freedom and innocence, as standing with Cristina is standing for our nation.
The rally comes a day after Ms. Kirchner began serving a 6-year sentence for corruption at her home under electronic surveillance. The Democratic Republic of Congo's Justice Minister has resigned over allegations he embezzled almost $20 million from a prison project. Constant Matamba said he hadn't taken a single dollar from the state and that he was a victim of a political plot initiated by Rwanda. The family of Zambia's former president, Edgar Lungu, has prevented his body from being repatriated from South Africa after accusing the Zambian government of breaching funeral agreements. The family claims Mr. Lungu left instructions that his long-term political rival and
views and opinions expressed on Straight Talk with Austin and Ellio do not necessarily reflect or represent the views of Stingray Media, its staff, or contributors. Callers to the program accept full responsibility for the views expressed. The show host and affiliates are not liable for any statements made or any harm claimed. All callers to the program indemnify Straight Talk from all claims. Offensive, defamatory, or unlawful content will not be tolerated. Be a part of the conversation by calling 745-2626. Now, here's Straight Talk with Austin and Ellio on Bobo 103.1.
And welcome back, K-Man, to more Straight Talk here on Bobo 103.1 FM with your hosts, myself, Austin Harris, and my colleague, Ellio Solomon, as we continue our discussion here on your radio dial 103.1 FM, but also simulcasting live over YouTube and Facebook. You can find us at the key search word Straight Talk Radio Show on both platforms, or you can also find us on the ACT Cruise Tourism Facebook page as well, so you can see us and hear us. And certainly, whilst you might, want to skip seeing just us two fellas most of the time, today you definitely want to be on streaming as we
better to look at.
Oh, yeah, we've got definitely, the scenery has improved significantly here in the studio with our distinguished guest, as promised, Miss Jada Ramon, the new Miss World K-Man. Miss Ramon, welcome to Straight Talk.
Hi, thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah.
Wonderful to have you in studios. Certainly also looking radiant and feeling better. And wow, that's an impressive crown you got there.
Thank you.
It really is. It heavy?
It's actually not.
Really?
It's pretty light.
Really?
I say it looks better than the last one we saw. Although that one looked great as well, but this one's got some beautiful gems in it. Matches
No,
up
I
with
like
you.
I like the what are they, emeralds? They look nice.
Matches up with the sash.
Yes, they're very, very nice. And it's nice to know it's not too heavy because I was wondering, my goodness, we know all you ladies, have a wicked workout regime. I was like, what's your neck workout? I'm working, I'm doing neck curls so I can carry the crown. It's, not easy being beautiful. Well, congratulations again. You were crowned Miss World Cayman at the last event in October. Tell us a little bit about what that pageant journey has been like for you.
I mean, well, I was actually crowned in March.
In March
this year. Yeah.
Yes. Oh, yes. That's right. Yes.
What does it feel like?
Yeah, what does it feel like?
It's
dream.
achieved that, and I have. So I'm definitely honored and very proud that I was trusted.
Sitting here with that same crown on.
Well, my dad was actually the one who put this dream in my head.
Ah.
Oh, nice.
Yes.
We'll take his name and number later.
Yeah, I always knew you were going to be a queen, honey. Just listen to your dad. I saw it in my mind's eye.
How old were you when he started putting that in your head? And that's important for parents who are listening.
Absolutely.
Child probably is. Well, my mind can only probably remember 5 years old. I probably can't remember any further.
But it was somewhere around there.
But it was somewhere around there.
Okay, awesome.
Yes.
That's wonderful.
It's very important what you tell the kids.
Now, when did your beauty pageant experience begin? I'm assuming Miss World wasn't the first and only competition you entered.
Not. So I began pageants at the age of 18, where I entered Miss Teen, Cayman Islands, and I was the second runner-up. That was my first ever pageant, and I've been hooked
ever since. All right. Is this your first Miss World competition competing in, or did you compete in the previous one as well?
This is my first time competing in Miss World Cayman Islands, yes.
Would you say that the experience you gained having participated in Miss Teen obviously helped you in your mature development towards Miss World?
Absolutely, most definitely. A lot of skills have been instilled and implemented that I've carried for almost 10 years from that, and it definitely reflected and it showed both here and on the international stage.
The quick question, you said you came second on the Miss Teen.
Yeah, second runner-up.
Tell for all those persons who are listening, how did you feel? You didn't let that discourage you?
Absolutely not. It was an honor in itself to place, because that was when Miss Teen had just come off of its hiatus. They were in hiatus for about 3 years. There were a few of us girls, so to place in the top 3 amongst deserving girls is an experience and definitely an honor, but that didn't hurt me away.
So it just kind of told you, I can do this. I'm going to get.
Absolutely. You can only get better.
Awesome.
It's only up from here.
Indeed. In terms, as my colleague quite rightly pointed out, obviously you're very much a role model. Forgive me, I was talking immigration earlier on. We were talking about rollover. You are definitely a role model for many young women in Cayman, particularly those who might otherwise have the same dreams and aspirations, and or even their fathers reminding them that they're queens. Talk to us about what sort of obligations you have now as the queen and the crown bearer as Miss World Cayman Islands.
Definitely, you hit the nail on the head. It's about being a role model and a active member within the community and society. It's about showing up, because, again, when my reign ends, I don't plan to disappear from the community projects or the spotlight, because, like I said, and on the final night of my question, for my answer, a crown doesn't make a queen. It's what she does before, during, and after she wears the crown. So even though I have this crown right now, I definitely want to continue with my community involvement and continuing to advocate for my platform, which is mental health.
I think there's a little saying about, what is it? Heavy is the crown for the one who wears it. And again, we're not talking about that literal crown, but the obligations that you have. And you seem to be happy to be wearing that crown in terms of those obligations to help motivate younger persons like yourself. Yes. Have you seen some of those younger persons that you're actually motivating? Have you had the chance to see some of them?
I've had girls reach out to me and have definitely supported me personally through the journey, and have said how I've inspired them to not even just to pursue pageantry, but to go through life with a smile. And when you get knocked down, you don't stay down and you don't let the negative get to you. You grow, you continue to grow, and you just continue to become a better person.
Totally.
Right. That's the correct attitude to have. I'm also equally impressed by, obviously, your statement moments ago. I don't know whether it's a career choice, but certainly you can enlighten us and our listeners, talking about, obviously, your passion being mental health, which I think is very encouraging. We certainly promote the destigmatization, if you will, of mental health here in the Cayman Islands. We feature it on many a topic. It's very important, near and dear to our heart. Is this something that you see yourself pursuing as part of a career path, or is this sort of an interest that developed perhaps later in life?
I was actually, diagnosed with anxiety and depression at the age of 16.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay. Wow.
And because of the great support system that I had behind me and my willingness to accept help, I was definitely able to overcome that. I didn't let my struggle define who I was and who I was destined to become.
Outstanding.
I reached out to the Alex Panton Foundation upon its inception, and I've been a volunteer with them for the past 7 years. I was able to speak at their second annual symposium, where I was able to share my story and to get it out there to let them know that there's always light at the end of the tunnel. And just because you're down today doesn't mean you'll be down forever.
See, that's what we've been talking about. Again, back to Huda discussion. You know, it's a case where you can share a story like that. Here is someone who's sharing and saying, I suffered from anxiety. First of all, just that in itself takes a lot of courage, right?
Yes.
To say I've suffered from anxiety and depression, but I did it.
Yeah.
And think about how motivating that is to other persons, one who we would consider, quote unquote, perfectly normal. And again, especially for those persons who may find themselves in a similar circumstance. You touch my heart today.
Certainly.
You've done it even more now.
Certainly. And the timeliness, really, of you sharing that with us, because I think very recently, speaking of the Alex Panton Foundation, I think our very good friend, Dr. Mark Lockhart, recently gave a speech or a presentation. He might even been the keynote speaker at an event at the Alex Panton Foundation. And certainly he's the person we go to when we want an expert opinion on mental health. So it's wonderful. We also learned today that in addition to your obligations and responsibilities as Miss World Cayman, you also have a day job.
I do.
So you go to work and then you go to the other work. That must be quite a heavy load. How do you manage them both?
It's all about prioritizing. When I'm at work, my 9-to-5 job, it's strictly work unless I have outside obligations that have to do with the Crown. My boss is very supportive, and he'll allow me to step out and get what I have to get done, and then I'm right back at work. But I really, honestly, it's about doing what you love, and I personally love my job, so I don't see it as something that is a burden or stressful.
You're a time management expert, undercover.
Yeah, very good.
Humble.
Absolutely. Well, in addition to obviously being crowned Miss World Cayman in March, thank you for correcting me, originally the second runner-up, but again, highlighting the importance that, anybody can wear the crown at any point in time. So again, on the role model side, listen, being second runner-up is not necessarily a bad thing when you consider certainly Jada Ramon's journey. But more importantly, you recently returned back home after competing in what was, I understand, the 72nd annual Miss World India competition, with the finals being held on the 31st of May. What was it like in that competition? I understand there was like 108 different contestants from around the world.
Myself included, yeah.
What was that like?
8. It was scary at first, having to leave my family for 4 weeks. I was definitely freaking out about it.
Right.
But once you get adjusted, it's something that you have to take a deep breath and you savor this moment, and you said, wow, I am actually here in India representing my home on the world stage.
Absolutely.
So it was definitely an experience that I will never forget, once in a lifetime.
I just want you to pause there. I got a text. It fits right in. It says, competing and representing your country in the pageant makes you a winner already. Just continue to try again in the next competition until you get the crown and make your country proud. You will be an inspiration to anyone. That was perfect.
She's already an inspiration to me, I tell you
absolutely. Yeah, and I mean, again, like I said, sharing that story, I mean, just that's additional challenges, and you've overcome all of that. I'm super proud of you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, before we talk about some of the firsts that your participation in Miss Miss World India obviously allowed, of the 108 contestants, I'm sure you made some friends. Can you tell us maybe, were there one or two ones that perhaps you were closer to than others? Do you remember them to be anyway?
Of course I remember them. My roommate was Miss Belize, and her and I formed a bond super quickly.
Wow.
Right to the point where you would think we've been friends
forever.
all of our lives.
Nice.
We've had girls come up to us in the pageant and they would say, you guys are going to be friends for a very long time. I said, yeah, that's the plan.
That's great. That's great.
Miss Belize is definitely one of the girls I've considered one of my closest friends, and even places like Brazil.
Nice.
She was a very sweet girl, super sweet, and Ecuador, very nice girl. And of course, our Jamaican queen. She was super, super great.
All right. Now, I'm told that the event organizers, the franchise holder of Miss World Cayman, certainly did everything they could do to certainly get you ready for this competition. Obviously, small Cayman Islands competing against 107 other, maybe arguably larger jurisdictions, women, perhaps arguably with more experience, maybe even bigger entourages and whatnot, but you holding your own very well. In the first instance, in the lead up to the pageant itself, you were the first Miss World Cayman queen to have the benefit of working with an international trainer. Is that right?
That's correct.
Talk to us about that experience. What was it like, and what did you learn from that experience?
So in those 6 weeks leading up to the pageant, I met my international pageant coach, Melvin. Honestly, I was a sponge for those 6 weeks. I tried to absorb everything that he was telling me, when it came from my posture to the way that I spoke, the way that you just present yourself, even on a video call in your house. He was like, you always have to look the part, because you never know who's around or who you'll see. He definitely helped me in that sense. And he just helped me to be my true, authentic self, he said, because that is who people are going to fall in love with.
Bring out the best in you.
Exactly. You have to be your true, authentic self. And he definitely brought that out of me. I definitely came out of my shell a bit more, very open to sharing my story a lot more. And he helped me to achieve that on the world stage.
Outstanding. Where did Mr. Melvin hail from, and what's his sort of background?
So he is initially from Mumbai. So that's where I was for 4 days before I flew over to Telangana for the actual pageant.
Wow, talk about a world traveler as well. That's impressive.
He's been in pageants for years. He's done so much, from costume designing. He's a singer, so he helps people with their talents, and he knows his craft and what he's doing. And I feel like the most important thing is when you're working with someone is that they love what they do. And you can tell that he loves what he does, and that he is so committed to dedicating his time to ensuring that the girls that he coaches are the best that they can be.
Indeed. Well, you clearly listened to that guidance spread over 4 days and carried it forward in the competition, where you also delivered what can easily be described as a historical first performance for the Cayman Islands, being placed in 2 of what is called fast-track challenges as part of the competition. Maybe you can tell us, first of all, what is a fast-track challenge, how important they are, and also what were the 2 fast-track challenges that you placed in?
Okay. So first of all, the fast track challenges are challenges that the Miss World organization had put into place to help to propel girls to make it to the next round. So like the top 10 in their continent. So for example, if I had won one of the fast track challenges, I would have automatically advanced into the semifinals on the final night.
I see.
So that's why those were put into place. And I definitely feel like it was a good idea because it gives smaller countries like the Cayman Islands the opportunity to shine and to be noticed on such a big stage, you know? And the fast track challenges that I placed in were talent and the head-to-head
Okay.
challenge, yes.
All right. All right. And what was the talent in which you presented as part of your challenge?
So I sang for my talent.
Really?
Yes, I did.
Join me.
Right up your alley there.
There you go. I like even more.
Singer. We're going to come out with a Christmas album featuring Ellio Solomon. Maybe we can have a Miss World duet, contained in
I'm
there.
curious. What did you sing?
I sang Tomorrow by Annie from the musical Annie.
Tomorrow?
Wonderful. Wonderful. He has also a bit of theater as well. I don't know if you know, but
I did not know.
He was a theater
But either way,
phenom in his youth.
Pay no mind to my colleague. This is not about me. This is all about you. So I'm curious, when you were on that stage, big, huge city, the big India, what was on your mind? I mean, like, what did you think about Cayman? What were you thinking?
Cayman was definitely on my mind throughout the entire.
Like they're depending on me.
Not even
Or what?
just
I want to know.
that.
Uh-huh.
I look at it as I wasn't just representing myself.
Right.
And it wasn't just about the Cayman Islands in itself. It's about the people.
Right.
I brought all of the people of Cayman with me
With you.
on that stage.
Wow.
Yes.
Total awesome.
That's indeed really incredible. So I guess the next obvious question is, what's next for Miss Jada Ramon as Miss World?
Definitely making a lot more appearances, possibly getting into some more schools, a lot of community involvement, continuing to advocate for my platform of mental health, as well as school, trying to finish up my education. But sky's the limit, honestly. There's so much that I want to do, and I can't wait to be given the opportunity to do those things.
All right. All right. What would you say has been your proudest moment in your journey now, since you are the queen and the crown wearer?
Holding my flag on the national stage has definitely been my proudest moment.
Yes.
Since being crowned.
All right. All right. Well, again, we're all extremely proud of you winning or participating, rather, in the 2 fast-track challenges, which is a first for any queen. So you also have that distinction, and you certainly penciled into the Cayman history books.
I'm just curious, what, if you don't mind, what do you have to say to some of those persons, again, some of those individuals, particularly younger ones that are looking at you with the sparkle in the eyes, like you probably did some years ago? What are some of the things you want to say to them in terms of what they should do? I mean, some of the things that you've learned, and aid them, encourage them.
Never give up on yourself and never to give up on your dreams. I am a reflection of every young girl who's looking up to me, because I want whoever is looking up to me to see themselves, because they have the potential to do what I'm doing, and then some. They can become a lot better than I am, to the point where I'm even looking up to them, because I feel like it doesn't matter their age. You can look up to kids,
right?
Honestly, and that's just my overall goal. And I know, looking at a lot of the queens that Cayman has had, and seeing all that they have accomplished, and following in their footsteps, knowing that I am now one of the Caymanian queens that young girls want to be like, it brings me so much pride and joy and happiness. And I just want to continue to motivate young girls to love themselves and believe in themselves, and to let them know that you can become whatever it is that you put your mind to.
I like what you're saying. It sounds like you're saying I've carried the baton and you're inspired by me, but I want you to know I'm going to pass it on to you and you're going to go even further.
Absolutely.
Indeed.
Totally.
Well, Jade, I want to thank you so very much for being our guest. We are certainly more enthused because of your presence. We're delighted to have you in studios. And as the old saying goes, some things are worth waiting for. Obviously, expecting you last week, Friday, a bit under the weather, but certainly never too late to receive you in studios. Thank you for your inspiring story. Congratulations for your inspiring performances. Wishing you the very best in your remaining months, I guess, as Queen, and certainly looking forward to great and exciting things from you as a citizen. So, again, to you, your family, and all of your fans, nothing but love for you, and thank you for being our guest.
Thank you so much for having me.
Our pleasure.
You're very welcome indeed. 28, soon to be 29 minutes past the hour of 5 o'clock. We're going to pause, take a short commercial break, check in with a few brief commercials. But when we return, we move into our open mic portion of the program. The phone lines are open, 745-2626, as there be more Straight Talk coming up next on Bobo FM.
More Straight Talk with Austin and Ellio coming up. Be a part of the conversation by calling 745-2626. Bobo 103.1.
With you in mind, we have your style. Find what you need down every aisle. You want saving, selection, and quality. That's why we're your home store. The way to make a home. The way to make a home.
Be prepared. Hurricane supplies are needed not just to get through the storm, but afterwards as well. Have enough non-perishable food, water, and medicine to last each person a minimum of 3 days. Keep extra cash, a battery-powered radio, flashlights, and a USB charger for your cell phones. Be informed. Make a plan. Be prepared. For more information, visit caymanprepared.ky.
Hello, pet parents. We're Cayman Vets, Cayman's most advanced veterinary clinic providing quality care and services. We are committed to being your pet's advocate and friend, offering a lifetime of care. From vaccinations and wellness checks to more advanced surgical procedures, complicated medical concerns, and emergency care on demand. For more information about us or to get in touch, please visit caymanvets.com. Cayman Vets, where compassion meets excellence.
It's trivia every Wednesday from 7 o'clock at Sandbar on the Georgetown waterfront. Your chance to win some fantastic prizes in our free-to-enter Trivia Madness. Great offers on beer buckets, margaritas, and a delicious menu served throughout the evening. Grab your pals and get along to Sandbar every Wednesday from 7 o'clock for the most fun you can have with your clothes on. Are we ready?
Yes, Marty!
Then let's do this. Trivia, Sandbar, 7 o'clock, Wednesday. See you there.
With you in mind, we have your style. Find what you need down every aisle. You want saving, selection, and quality. That's why we're your home store. The way to make a home. The way to make a home.
When it comes to cooking for my family, I turn to Kirk Market for all our nutritional needs. Whether whipping up a quick stir fry with lean CAB choice beef or preparing a healthy weekend dinner with fresh local snapper, Kirk Market always has exactly what I need. At Kirk Market, I find premium proteins that keep my family healthy, energetic, and always coming back for seconds. Visit Kirk Market today. Bring home the quality and freshness your family deserves. Kirk Market. Eat well, live well, and experience a world of choice.
Across Cayman on FM, online, and on your smart speaker. This is Bobo 103.1, powered by Health Services Authority, committed to caring for you. The views and Opinions expressed on Straight Talk with Austin and Ellio do not necessarily reflect or represent the views of Stingray Media, its staff, or contributors. Callers to the program accept full responsibility for the views expressed. The show host and affiliates are not liable for any statements made or any harm claimed. All callers to the program indemnify Straight Talk from all claims. Offensive, defamatory, or unlawful content will not be tolerated. Be a part of the conversation by calling 745-2626. Now, here's Straight Talk with Austin and Ellio on Bobo 103.1.
And welcome back, K-Man, to more Straight Talk here on Bobo 103.1 FM and simulcasting live over YouTube and Facebook with your hosts, Ellio Solomon and myself, Austin Harris. 33 minutes past the hour of 5 o'clock is the time in studios. And what a thrilling guest we just had.
That was awesome.
Again, I cannot help myself. She certainly was, she certainly did brighten up these studios, and it had nothing to do with the crown on her head.
I don't want to sound disparaging against you, Mr. Harris, but it was a change, a good change to have something better to look at.
I tell you, listen, you had no disparaging comments there at all. You know,
I perfectly understand either. The feeling's mutual.
Listen, man, I love you. I love your mind, your face. I'd rather look at her any day of the week. But
absolutely,
talk about also a very enthusiastic and bright mind on her as well. Such an inspiration. For many young women who will obviously follow in her footsteps. A great, big, heartfelt congratulations to the event organizers, not least of which our very good friend, Miss Pamela Ebanks, who, of course, is the franchise holder for Miss World Cayman Islands. Again, a number of firsts.
I think she's inspirational just about anyone who really, has an open mind, because you know what it is? Anxiety.
Yes.
There's people that don't get out of the house because of anxiety.
That's right.
You
combine it with depression?
So I don't know. She has really, faced the challenges.
And if she didn't share that very deeply personal part of her life with us, arguably, again, you could never see it on their face.
Absolutely.
A lot of people say, well, surely you must have seen something. There must have been signs.
Right.
But there she was in our studio, and she does not look like someone who either now or ever dealt with issues like anxiety and or depression.
It's just super impressive because, first of all, just to achieve what she has achieved is an accomplishment.
Yes.
And when you consider now that I've got some extra weights and straps to carry while I'm doing that, is just even more impressive.
Even more impressive indeed. So again, I hope you enjoyed our guest discussion as much as we did. Certainly, continue to follow Straight Talk. We, have always been willing to create pathways and opportunities for Miss World contestants. We have a fantastic working relationship with the franchise holder, and we look forward to highlighting other prominent young Caymanian women who have risen to extraordinary heights and, again, continue to raise the flag of the Cayman Islands and take the Cayman Islands people with them on their world travels. This is certainly somebody that we can hold up as a young person that we're, very proud of. The phone lines are open. 745-2626 is the number to call in if you want to call in and, I don't know, maybe add a comment to our discussion. Maybe you enjoyed the interview with Miss Ramon and want to, again, say a few quick words, maybe share a shout out, you can do so. Or if you have a question or comment or a topic you'd like to take us in a particular direction, we'd love to hear from you as well. You can also take advantage of what we call our version of the 1-800 line. Our WhatsApp number, 928-2562, which reminds me, I think I need to do that whole profile picture change thing again, which, by Jove, you think I could remember it.
You're
but
not
I
putting
can't.
up Brazilian flags again, are you?
Yeah, I know. No, this time I have a picture of, what used to, no, it's there. There we go. I was proactive.
Just when you thought you had erred.
Just when I thought I had erred, I was mistaken.
The only error I made was when I thought I'd erred.
That's right. I only thought I erred. Exactly. 928-2562. You can either share a WhatsApp audio note with us or a traditional WhatsApp text message. Either way, we will share your comments, your questions live on air as part of our ongoing discussion. And just, again, for completeness, you can also email us at at straighttalk.ky. Ellio, you wanted to take us to the courts.
Yeah, I wanted to chat a little bit about this issue that I saw in the Compass today, right? And it's about a white British couple that was convicted of smuggling 2 Ethiopian refugees into Cayman Brac. I'm sure many of you might have seen it. But again, it talks about the fact that the court acknowledged that the refugees were mistreated, locked in a cabin, starved.
Yeah.
Called racial slurs like monkeys.
Yeah, that was horrible. We all remember that.
And lied about it to the authorities. Now, the smugglers were even instructing them to pretend that they were cleaners if they were discovered.
Mm-hmm.
Now, here are some of the things that comes to my mind when I see this. Because,
and not to mention viewing the authorities, the law which held them, and of course ultimately incarcerated them, in pretty much disregard.
Yeah.
Suggesting that, how dare you, challenge and charge us? How dare you rob us of our personal freedoms and barely even suggest that we did something wrong?
Right.
The audacity.
The audacity of these people.
Unmitigated gall.
So, there's just a couple of questions that comes to my mind immediately when I see this, right? Let me see if I get this right. A white couple, 2 black guys.
Yep.
2 black people. Locked away, pretty much. Again, they'd paid money for this, right?
Yep.
They paid money to be smuggled in. And that was another thing. I'm recalling hearing the word trafficking, but there's a difference between trafficking and smuggling. But either way, whatever.
Yeah.
Bottom line is these people would have paid $5,000 for these goodly folks to get them. Eventually, I think they wanted to get to Honduras. And maybe the plan was get to Honduras and work our way north and get into the United States. Who knows? Bottom line, they paid for this. And in the process, they were given some real mistreatment.
Yep.
And again, just to reiterate, locked up in a cabin, called monkeys. Mm-hmm. They were forced to sleep up on the deck, I guess out in the elements of the weather when appropriate for the white couple.
Inhumane.
And again, it was clear and evident that these persons intended to deceive the government. There's no doubt about this. And the first thing that strikes me is the fact that in the prosecution side, they mentioned something like they failed to fill out the paperwork. I mean, what light language. It's almost like somebody wants to wash it up a little bit and make it easy and more palatable to go down. Mm-hmm. They failed to fill out paperwork. Mm-hmm. First of all, there's no charges. I don't hear of any charges that says you don't treat people that way.
No.
Now, I can assure you, if you treat dogs that way, cats that way, I mean, there's another article in the paper talking about somebody raising money for cats and dogs. If you treat cats and dogs that way, you're going to get a lot of eyebrows raised.
Yeah.
But now we're talking about treating 2 black persons this way. And there's no major headline in the papers, by the way. There's no major headlines that says, hate crime, blacks mistreated, is slavery returning. We didn't get those kind of headlines,
No.
Bottom line of it is that I didn't hear of any charges that says you don't treat cattle this way and you shouldn't be treating human beings this way, even if they are black.
Absolutely.
I didn't hear that.
Absolutely.
And I don't see any of those charges. And in fact, you get almost this dilute sounding verbiage that says they failed to fill out paperwork. No, there's a difference between fail to fill out paperwork and deliberately not filling out something on the paperwork. Fail is like, oh crap, I missed that.
Yes.
Because we've all filled out forms. I didn't realize that the custom form was actually asking that.
Yes.
I'm sorry. That to me is a failure.
Yes.
This is a deliberate attempt to deceive, right? This is deliberate. And so you get all of this inhumane treatment. And I really want to just flip it around. I really want to flip it on its head. What if it was 2 black guys that had 2 white people doing that?
They would be sent to the proverbial electric chair.
2 black guys, just got a couple of white people locked up in a boat. I really wonder what would have happened. And I highlight this not just to go stirring up a racial card, but we really need to do something about when it comes to policing and how our justice system works in this country. I remember a young man, Years ago, this was a situation where, again, they had the mandatory sentence, and this individual, to the best of my knowledge, found a rusty gun. And arguably, the gun couldn't even fire. But yet, he's going to get the mandatory sentence. You know, the justice must prevail. But yet, you can get foreigners coming in with guns and bullets, and you get a different type of sentencing. And again, especially if they're white. I know, you're not supposed to talk about it. This is things we just whisper about.
Yep.
But what if it was a case that you had two black guys and they had two white people treating them like cattle? I don't know, calling them crackers or whatever you want to call them, whatever the mirror reflection of monkey is. This is the sort of stuff, and you have to ask yourself, why are these people getting a reduced sentence? Why are they getting a reduced sentence? Then they turn their face away from the cameras. Then on top of that, we're not allowed to know who these persons, what their names are. Their identity is concealed. And you really got to ask yourself, if this was a Caymanian,
oh my God,
or another Caribbean person, if it was going to be the same treatment. Oh well, we're not showing their face.
No.
And we're not charging them for contempt of court. Forget about the fact that they're turning away from the cameras.
Yeah.
Don't worry about the fact that they lied to us. And who cares if they actually let these black people sleep on top of a deck and cursed them monkeys and didn't feed them properly? Who worries about that? Who is going to say that if it was a Caymanian person or, God forbid, another Caribbean person? I don't think you would have gotten that. And these persons are now getting a reduced sentence. You're not allowed to know what are their identity. Their names aren't mentioned. And I know there's some legitimate reasons that sometimes that happens. I mean, for example, minors, we don't normally mention their names. What is the reason in this case? Is there some broader investigation that's going on that says if I release their name, it might jeopardize the other pending investigation? I don't think so.
Correct.
But I want persons to understand, and again, I mentioned it a few days ago in relation to the case with a white man driving a cyber truck that assaults a black Caymanian. And at the end of the day, the Caymanian guy is arrested, not the white guy who is evident on the camera as the one who committed the assault. He's arrested. The public makes a little bit of an uproar about it, which, of course, happens as usual, 7 days wonders, and then it disappears. Nothing from the police. There's no information from the police on this. Nothing in the media on this. And now we're sitting here, and here we have a situation. I don't know, what are these, two people from England or something?
Well, see, there it is. You know, I mean, again,
is it from America?
One raises the eyebrow. Is it because of their English background, why they were afforded this special treatment? That they could appear via video, as you said, certainly acting in contempt of court by refusing to go to court. What were the circumstances under which why the public, is kept in such great secrecy about this couple? What are the circumstances? I think, the public interest test certainly would want to be satisfied in this event. And to your point, when we consider the circumstances involved in this human smuggling case, the fact that, again, this couple showed up. Let's not even talk about illegal entry, but let's talk about the reality that you had two individuals, two Ethiopian men, fleeing their homeland. Somehow they made it, I think it was to St. Martin, where they met this couple from hell. Who charged them $5,000 each for a chance to just listen. I want to get away from, the political unrest. Surely they feared for their life.
Well, actually, I think there was a series of stops that they had done, and St. Martin was one of them.
Okay, fair enough.
But again, nothing really hinges on it, right?
I don't recall, obviously the details, but I thank you for correcting me. But the circumstances upon which they were held, taking your mind back to the slave trade ships of old. This was the manner in which they were treated. And I mean, again, outside of being, chained, and certainly to your point, left to sleep outside in the elements. I mean, the movie Amistad comes to mind because probably that's one of the most visual representations of that
your
dastardly historical context.
Your slave trade example is a very good one. And again, in this case, the slave traders would have been paid up front.
Yes.
Okay? But this is, you really got to open up your mind, be empathetic, and just really ask yourself if it's possible, if this was my son or my daughter and they were treated this way, does it really matter if the person's black, white, if they're from England, from America, where are they from?
No.
And ask yourself, you don't even get to know the persons that had your sons that way or your daughter that way? You don't even know who their identity, what their identity is? You don't know at the end of the day why they're reducing the sentence on these persons? Why aren't they getting the maximum? What would you be saying as a brother, sister, a parent, or a grandparent?
Indeed.
And I think all of this, like I'm going to end with this, really came on. We really need to start doing something. If we can't see that this justice system that we have, and I know now, I am now subjecting myself to be called in contempt of court. Oh, yeah, I know. Hear what he's saying. He's undermining the justice system.
Well, you won't be alone.
Well, I can tell you, they're going to have to call me for contempt of court because somebody really needs to start explaining what's happening in Cayman in relation to policing and the justice system in general. Because someone comes here and they're from America or from the UK, and God forbid if we get the extra stamp of approval because the color of their skin renders them melanin impoverished, and therefore they are the AKA white man, and therefore they get a completely different sentence. This is not sending a good message to the world and to this country. No. At the end of the day, if that is the case, it's good for the goose, good for the gander. I would really love to see it. If this was mirrored, what would have been the headline? What would really have been the headline if it was two black men dragging some white woman and having her locked up? And what would have been the headline? I can assure you, it wouldn't have been stuffed on the side of the paper, Yeah.
No, absolutely. It was a very serious offense. And to your point, I think your concerns, if not your criticisms of the justice system in this regard, I think are justified. And I'll take it a step further. I mean, the Grand Court ruled that whilst the convictions themselves were legitimate and should stand, they also ruled that the sentence that was originally handed down by the summary court was manifestly excessive. Mm-hmm. Now, again, we just outlined the extenuating circumstances in which were involved in this case. They didn't just, scam, which is what they did, defraud the two Ethiopian men. They charged them probably the last dollars they had in their pocket, premium. And then once they got them on board, they treated them like garbage, like slaves.
Cattle, to say the least.
Like cattle. To your point, maybe cattle probably would have been treated better. Yeah. So, whilst I respect that there was case law at play here and talking about the yardstick measurement for sentencing. What have we done in previous, perhaps, cases? What are the arguments for it? What is the measuring stick for it? But I think when you consider the offense taken in totality and the extenuating or aggravating circumstances involved in the case, and perhaps it being the first of its kind, I would seriously argue against the Grand Court's position that there was anything manifestly excessive about their conviction.
Mr. Harris, I can assure you.
We do have a caller. Let's see if we can take
Okay, go ahead.
Hear what the listeners think. Good evening, caller. You're on the air.
Yeah, good evening, gentlemen. How are you doing today?
Very well, Mr. Mario.
Good.
How are you, my friend?
Mario here. Very good, very good. I just started to catch your conversation here, and I know what it's all about, but could I just change the topic for a few minutes?
Yeah, sure.
I want to talk about these mobile credit card payment machines that are in vogue everywhere now in restaurants and bars and other places, especially the tourist-related kind of food and beverage places. One of the things that you'll notice if you're presented one of those to pay by is that it has one of the options it has is tip, yes or no.
Yeah.
And oftentimes with many of these establishments, already you have an automatic gratuity added to your bill, right? Especially if those are establishments that are registered with the Department of Labor, and they have a gratuity scheme. And so on the bill, you have an automatic gratuity, whether it's 15%, 18%, or whatever.
Right.
Now, many tourists come to the island, and they are not aware of the automatic gratuity that some places have on their bills, and so they get these machines come to them with their bill, they give their card, and then they put the card in and ask you for a tip, yes or no, and then you put the amount or whatever. But oftentimes you end up then getting charged a tip, because you give a tip, I guess, for good service, and the gratuity is put on there normally for, even if you don't get good service, of course you can always challenge it and not pay it, right? Mm-hmm. But people normally don't do that, as you know, and especially visitors that are not used to our system. When I was in the UK, and myself, my wife, in 2023, and in London and in Edinburgh, Scotland, when the bills came, they had a sign, they had a verbiage at the bottom of the bill, the check, and it says, gratuity is included, but not required, not mandatory. If you don't want, you have to pay it. If you dispute it, you can dispute it. So it had a advisory, right? Mm-hmm. I saw that, and I thought it was very, very good. And so I took a picture of the bill, and back in 2023, and I sent it to the Chamber of Commerce, the then Minister of Tourism, Mr. Bryan, the then President of the Tourism Association, with some suggestion that we should probably do some kind of education or signage at some of our establishments around the same thing. I also recently sent the same thing to the new Minister for Tourism. All I'm saying, gentlemen, is I think that we need to look at that, because it came out very expensive, and tourists are probably going to start to complain more about the cost. And those are the things add up and makes it even more perceived to be even more expensive, or actually more expensive. And so I just want to give that suggestion to you guys to think about, and to say that maybe educating the servers and bartenders and others to tell people that, the tip is not required. It's already included in the bill, if that's the case, so that people are not just kind of embarrassed or forced into paying additional monies from their limited budget and leaving the place with a sour taste in their mouth.
All right, caller. Thank you very much.
Appreciate your comments, and certainly raising this important issue in terms of how persons are being billed. Back to our substantive conversation, Ellio. Again, as I was stating, if there is someone to be held in contempt of court, you certainly won't be alone, my friend.
Well, I appreciate it.
I disagree with the Grand Court's decision, in particular calling the decision and the sentence made by the summary court manifestly excessive for all of the reasons we've already talked about. And you were going to comment on that before we had a call.
No, but again, I forgive me if I lost that particular train of thought, but I welcome more information. I'm welcoming more information to be informed so that I can change my position if it's required.
Yes.
But I can tell you from the information that I see here. And you see, ladies and gentlemen, I want to highlight, we're not talking here about lay persons. We're not even talking about Austin and I. We're not, and I don't consider us lay persons, particularly when it comes to talking. But we're not even as learned as the courts, right? So when you get a word mentioned by a lawyer or a judge, we should be able to hold on to it for every little bit of gravity that it holds.
Yes.
Failed to fill out a document. Mm-hmm. Why did you choose to use the verbiage fail to fill out a document? It's again as if you're trying to lighten the situation. You're trying to lend almost the impression that this doesn't have the gravitas that it really does possess.
Yeah.
So they fail to fill out the document. This is not a case of failure. This is a deliberate action done to deceive.
Yeah.
And we're talking about treating, and I think I'm back on the thought now, Mr. Harris. I want people to, sorry?
A minute 45.
I want people to understand that if you had dogs or a cat that was being treated like that in Cayman, you would be having the Humane Society, you would be having a ruckus being kicked up by all of our self-proclaimed owners of this private island. You would have the ECO, the environment. Everyone would be out on the inhumane treatment that was given to these dogs and cats. But you two Negroes from Ethiopia, not really worth the time. We soften the language, we soften the sentence.
Yes.
And I am saying to you, I put it to you, that if it was a Negro from Cayman, the Caribbean, or anywhere else in the world that had a couple of white people locked up and were treating them that way, and God forbid worse if it was dogs and cats, you would have had a different headline and a different sentence. And we as a country just really need to do something about it, because if we can't nip it in the bud, I can tell you one thing, the bud will nip us in the end.
Absolutely. It is 58, now 59 minutes past the hour of 5 o'clock. We do have to pause and take a short commercial break. Once again, check in with the top of the hour news brought to you by our news partner, the BBC. I will acknowledge there was another caller trying to get in there, but I wanted to give my colleague an opportunity to wrap up his thoughts on this, what we think is a very important topic, and certainly highlights a number of issues that we face almost day to day in the Cayman Islands. And, well, again, we want to hear from you. But there will be more Straight Talk coming up next.
Bobo.
BBC News. BBC News. World news from the BBC. Violent clashes. Thick black smoke.
A tremendous legal victory.
Crucial elections.
Destructive wind.
A search and recovery operation.
A race against time.
An imminent threat. Flying a drone over a rival team's training session.
Whatever is happening, wherever it's happening, catch up with the latest news bulletins from the BBC.
The home of the BBC World Service. This is Bobo FM.
The BBC's From Our Own Correspondent.
In today's Russia, no one is allowed anywhere near the political stage if they pose a serious challenge to Vladimir Putin.
Stories and reflections from our reporters around the world.
There is a major sense of insecurity here. More people are coming in from Sudan every day.
From Our Own Correspondent from the BBC.
The home of the BBC World Service. This is Bobo FM.
How can we understand the world better?
The BBC World Service is a window onto the wider world.
The vantage point from which to survey a new horizon.
News, reports, and analysis from around the world.
Stories we think matter.
Different people from different societies.
We get to the heart of global issues.
News, stories, and global perspectives from the BBC World Service.
The home of the BBC World Service. This is Bobo FM. This is Bobo 103.1, powered by Health Services Authority.
At Health Services Authority, they are committed to caring for you. They are Cayman's largest and longest standing healthcare provider, offering the most comprehensive range of inpatient, outpatient, and public health services at 9 different locations across all 3 islands.
Across Cayman on 103.1 FM, online, and on your smart speaker. The home of the BBC World Service. This is Bobo 103.1.
BBC News, hello, I'm Eileen McHugh. President Trump has been meeting his National Security Council as he weighs up the pros and cons of joining Israel's military campaign against Iran. Mr. Trump said he didn't want to fight, but would rather do that than let Iran develop a nuclear weapon. Our State Department correspondent Ton Bateman says Israel has been lobbying the US hard.
The Americans are basically being pressured by the Israelis to join in, and fundamentally one of the reasons for that is because the Israelis want the B-2 Spirit bombers, these stealth planes that can carry these huge bunker-busting bombs that would be needed, it's believed, to target the Fordow uranium enrichment site, which is buried deep into a mountainside south of Tehran. The Israelis can't do that by themselves.
The Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has said his country is making steady headway towards eliminating the threat posed by Iran. Our Middle East correspondent Sebastian Usher says Iran's remaining defiant in the face of the attacks and the rhetoric from the White House.
The momentum of Israel's attack on Iran isn't letting up. In a televised address, his second since Israel launched its offensive, Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei said any American military intervention against Iran would cause irreparable damage for the US, and he responded directly to Mr. Trump's call for surrender. Israeli jets have continued to hit targets in Iran throughout the day. Overnight, the military said it struck around 20 sites in Tehran, including facilities used in the manufacture of missiles.
The Iranian Foreign Minister, Abbas Araghchi, said his country was committed to diplomacy. Officials at the Iranian Foreign Ministry have told the BBC they're considering possible meetings with US negotiators. US media are reporting that one of the most famous teams in sport, basketball's Los Angeles Lakers, have been sold in a record $10 billion deal. It's believed to be the most expensive franchise sale in sporting history. The NBA team, which has been owned by the Buss family, has been bought by the owner of the Los Angeles Dodgers baseball team, Mark Walter. The US Federal Reserve has left its key interest rate unchanged. The Fed chair, Jerome Powell, said the central bank would make better decisions if it waited a few months.
Changes to trade, immigration, fiscal, and regulatory policies continue to evolve, and their effects on the economy remain uncertain. The effects of tariffs will depend, among other things, on their ultimate level. Expectations of that level, and thus of the related economic effects, reached a peak in April and have since declined. Even so, increases in tariffs this year are likely to push up prices and weigh on economic activity.
You're listening to the latest world news from the BBC. Rwanda and the Democratic Republic of Congo say they've reached a draft agreement to end 30 years of on-off conflict. The breakthrough came at talks mediated by the United States. The peace deal will provide for the disarmament of proxy militias in eastern Congo, territorial integrity, and a joint security mechanism to try to prevent the recurring flare-ups that have been a hallmark of the fighting. It's expected to be signed next week. Thousands of people have rallied in Buenos Aires in support of Argentina's convicted former president, Cristina Fernández de Kirchner. Her followers waved banners and national flags under the slogan, Argentina with Cristina. The crowd heard an audio message from her saying those in power could lock her up but could not lock up the Argentine people. Daniel Catalano is from the Buenos Aires Workers' Association.
They tried to kill her, but failing that, they've now imprisoned her. We are emboldened, witnessing her unwavering strength. We will tirelessly advocate for her freedom and innocence, as standing with Cristina is standing for our nation.
The rally comes a day after Ms. Kirchner began serving a 6-year sentence for corruption at her home under electronic surveillance. She's also been banned from holding public office. The US drug regulator has approved a new preventative medicine against HIV. The long-acting drug, lenacapavir, needs only to be taken once every 6 months, and the chairman of its developer, Gilead Sciences, said the decision by the Food and Drugs Administration was a historic moment in the fight against the virus. Officials in charge of Britain's Parliament have rejected calls for cats to be brought in to help control vermin in the historic building. They said the feline patrols were impractical because of possible risks to the animals from construction activity and self-closing doors. The London landmark has long been plagued by mice. BBC News.
Opinions expressed on Straight Talk with Austin and Ellio do not necessarily reflect or represent the views of Stingray Media, its staff, or contributors. Callers to the program accept full responsibility for the views expressed. The show host and affiliates are not liable for any statements made or any harm claimed. All callers to the program indemnify Straight Talk from all claims. Offensive, defamatory, or unlawful content will not be tolerated. Be a part of the conversation by calling 745-2626. Now, here's Straight Talk with Austin and Ellio on Bobo 103.1.
And welcome back, K-Man, to more Straight Talk here on Bobo 103.1 FM and simulcasting live over YouTube and Facebook with your hosts, Ellio Solomon, myself, Austin Harris. And the phone lines are open, 745-2626, or you can reach out to us on our WhatsApp line, 928-2562. And from there, you can share either a WhatsApp audio note or a traditional WhatsApp text message. I just want to recognize and acknowledge there was a caller trying to get through on the tail end of the last segment, but we really had very limited time. I wanted to give my colleague an opportunity to certainly wrap up the discussion which he initially engaged in by raising this very troubling topic and arguably even more troubling decision by the Grand Court, as taken from the media headlines. But I do see they're calling back now, so let's go to the phone lines as a priority. Good evening, caller. You're on the air.
Hi, good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening, ma'am. Thank you for your call.
You guys can't answer the calls and put it on hold or what?
We can, but there's the assumption. First of all, we can't answer without answering it live on the air, and for whatever reason, I can't pick up the receiver and talk to you during the break. It's one of our technical limitations. We're working on it, but we haven't overcome it yet, so we apologize.
Okay. I wasn't aware of that.
Yes.
I wanted to chime in quickly. I haven't read the recent decision with the Grand Court that you guys are discussing, but in a personal capacity, I without any influence or impact to those who overheard the case, my personal opinion kind of goes along with what you guys are saying. And, people of color, whether it wants to be acknowledged that that's a fact here in Cayman, people of color can understand, where some of these issues come from. And, the other thing I wanted to say, and I'm in agreement with some of your, most of your comments. And we're all going to say that those are our personal opinions because, we all three of us are people of color, and we're also old enough and mature enough and experienced enough in life to understand certain unspoken things,
Yes, ma'am.
But the other part I wanted to say, Cayman, again, I haven't read the decision, and but I am aware of the case and, the facts of the case as was reported through the media. And, Cayman is still a developing jurisdiction when it comes to the law. If you review a lot of our laws, those that are being modernized in the last 5, 10, 15, 20 years are still pretty much out of touch with most of our other counterparts around the world. And, cases like these are humanitarian cases, and there's a lot of different factors that I feel would come into play that may not even be mentioned in court, and that could be areas that are for and against the cases, and again, like I said, it could be considered a humanitarian case. I don't think the humanitarian aspect of it was fairly applied, to be honest with you, but I didn't think that from the get-go of the case, especially when there was an appeal. But, everyone has the right to appeal, and appeals are made on some of the most simple technical issues when it comes to legal cases. Mm-hmm. There's so many different grounds that can fall under, but like I said, Cayman is still a developing jurisdiction when it comes to laws, and one of our more common areas that we're always seeing amended is immigration here in Cayman. But our Constitution needs modernizing. We need to be more in comparison with our other counterparts. The UK, unfortunately, England isn't as in compliance with humanitarian, the United, what's it called, the Declaration?
European Convention on Human Rights?
No, not that one. Oh my gosh, I can't remember it. It was just in the hip. It's a declaration of, it's like a human rights document. I can't remember the name right now, but some of our constitutional human rights are formatted in par with some of those on that document. And our Constitution really needs to be modernized, and I'm sure you guys know this, is that Cayman has a unique sort of legal system where we still, as a jurisdiction, dependent territory, we still have a bit of leeway to make our own laws, and then superseding that is the motherland laws. And so, but we still have a long way to go in modernizing our laws to be in compliance with a lot of international standards. And some of that might be what contributed to this case. We just don't know because, as you guys probably know, there's a lot of things that goes on in cases that are unspoken to the public or even, discussed on record per se and never get out in the eyes of the public. And so I just want to leave that and say, we have let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4 lawyers on our present. Well, 3 lawyers in our present government. We have Minister Ebanks-Wilkes, we have Premier Ebanks, and we have MP Panton, and then we have Ms. McGaw Lumsden, who is in the opposition. But we have four lawyers there, out of our collective government that. These are things, hopefully, once they all settle and the government settles in, and some of these issues can be visited so we can try to modernize our Constitution and some of our other laws. And because our Constitution was last updated when 2009, and it's still a very small document for a population as ours and how our country has evolved since that time, too, And one of the things I was discussing recently that I would like to see change, which also has to go back with changing our Constitution, is the ability for Caymanians to be able to vote no matter how long they have been out of the jurisdiction. Because if you were born here and you're recognized with the right to be Caymanian, you should be able to vote no matter how long you leave this country, because this is your home, this is where you were born, and you can't tell a Caymanian that because they've been gone for over 2 years and they didn't go for education or health reasons that they can't vote any longer in Cayman. They could potentially be struck off the voters list. So that's one thing. But I'm going to leave you guys there with that. And just wanted to give my...
Well, caller, thank you. First of all, thank you for calling. You sound like a new voice here on the radio, and we greatly appreciate you taking the time out to call. And in relation to our Bill of Rights, as far as I recall, our Bill of Rights is based on the European Convention on Human Rights. And again, we have it codified. The UK themselves doesn't have a codified constitution the way Cayman does. Right. So in many respects, we're still advanced. But I want to say this: you can put a lot of things in writing in law, but we have to monitor how those things are actually implemented. Right. There are things, for example, in our laws where they have been obviously deliberately chosen to not be enforced. And those are some of the things that happens in this country. But at least we're definitely in agreement that we don't necessarily like what we see in many instances. And I want to thank you very much for taking the time out to call, and hopefully you'll keep calling.
Indeed. And if I could just add, certainly, perhaps you meant the Universal Declaration on Human Rights?
Okay. Yes, that's a document, yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Happy to help.
I agree with you, Ellio. There are, some of our antique laws do have areas in there across the board of different areas of law that could be applied. And, I'll say this without prejudice or disrespect to anyone in the legal field, is that much of who we see come to this jurisdiction to practice many of these areas are not originally here from Cayman, and they don't have, most of them, it takes a long time for them to learn most of our laws, and so they get into a specific area and they are not too versed on our laws here in Cayman, if and until, say, for instance, a case like this happens. And the other thing that I have been advocating for is, and it's no disrespect again to our legal system or the law school or anything like that, but one thing that I was advocating for was the fact that going to law school here in Cayman, the law school is administered through the University of Liverpool. Mm-hmm. And so when you're studying for your law degree here in Cayman, you're really learning British law, right? And it's only when you get into, you obtain the Bachelor's of Law, and when you get into the professional practice course, mm-hmm. that 1 year there is, from my understanding, because I did start law school and I had to drop out, but my understanding is at that time when you go into the professional practice course, yes, and then on to your articleships, which is another year, right? Those mm-hmm. 2 years are basically what a person gets exposed to learn Cayman law, right? Mm-hmm. But 2 years of that is really not applicable as much as you could have been doing 3 years of Cayman law or intertwine Cayman with British law, because when I was attending class at the law school in 2023, I tried my best to interject with Cayman's law, and it was politely dismissed and saying, thanks for that, but this is really what we're studying. Yeah. You'll have time to implement Cayman law, interject Cayman law into it. So what we're finding is when we're talking about some areas of the law that are I forgot how you worded it, that are I would say conveniently not applied.
Correct.
Right. So I feel also that some of these attorneys may not even be aware of the laws or don't know the laws well enough, because those that have law degrees already that come here, I don't even know how they are. I think they have to do. I don't know if they have to do the professional practice course also, and then an articleship before they're called to practice.
Yeah, well, they're probably allowed right in. But let me just share something with you very quickly, caller. And again, I just share this experience to prove a point. I remember once there was an issue, a very simple issue, mind you, that I went to court for. And I remember one judge sitting and saying, Mr. Solomon, it doesn't matter if you don't have a lawyer. Don't worry at all. We're going to take you through the process. And she was very methodical, and you could see the fairness, dripping off of her, right? Someone must have discovered that. And by the time I went back to the court, I had a different judge, to say the least. I was in and out of there in 10 minutes. Guilty.
Right.
And I can assure you, because I don't intend to get into the details of it, it is clearly I don't have time. I think you're guilty. I'm not even wasting my time. You're out of here. Okay? And all I'm saying is, again, this is not about me, but I just want to see a level of fairness. And we're seeing this too many times in Cayman, where
people of color.
Yeah. And do you think that you would be coming in? Oh, I'm sorry, I accidentally left my gun in my suitcase, and then
I let my friend there. They're my bag.
Oh, that's my friend's bullets.
Yeah.
Come on. Anyway, thank you very much, caller. Wonderful, greatly appreciate it.
It's still alive and well. And one other thing that that I noticed, and I know that the word will get out that we had this discussion, is that you have the right as a person to represent yourself as well as someone who has a lawyer. But I've heard the complaints. I've seen cases people go there without a lawyer because they can't afford one, or because legally it gives them pushback, and then they're not allowed to properly maneuver how to represent themselves or anything. That again is another constitutional issue. There's a lot of things that this country needs to evolve in when it comes to representing to the legal field. And like I said, it's not to complain against any person in the judiciary or anything like that. It's just on a whole in the legal field. And I feel that this toppled over into this particular case. So I felt that way from the beginning, even without reading the Grand Court ruling, that something is going to trickle in here somewhere, that this isn't going to come out looking favorable at all for these people that were, kidnapped or whatever they were. But anyway, I won't hold you guys up. Thank you very much for the call. I appreciate it.
Yes,
Bye-bye.
indeed. Thank you very much for your comment and for sharing your views with us. Another comment emanating from the live chat on our YouTube page, of course, our YouTube stream. It says, gentlemen, we have allowed ourselves in the name of progress to be ostracized, subjugated, and relegated to the lowest of standards. And in many cases, for us Caymanians, there are no standards at all. So certainly thank you for this discussion and for sharing that with us. Another writer to the program on WhatsApp says, remember, justice is blind and unbalanced. We do have at least 2 voice notes to share. Let's take them now.
Good evening, Austin and Ellio. You are hitting on a very, very important subject today on the issue of the justice system and policing. The problem in Cayman is that a lot of these cases, even when they are exposed in public, there are no consequences. The relevant authority comes up and says, well, let's not prejudge the issue. Let's wait until all the evidence is in. And once the evidence is in, everything is forgotten. About the arrest of the 17-year-old, Imagine if there had been no video. You know, his life would have been totally ruined. And even now, it looks like they haven't done anything about it. Look at the case of the Honorable Makiva Bush. I don't want to comment generally about all his cases, but it came out in court in one case that there were some people who really wanted him, while some of the witnesses didn't want to pursue it. The governor said, well, you see, let's wait until the evidence in. But apparently it has died. There was a paralegal in the portfolio of legal affairs who was prosecuted, her career destroyed, this Caymanian young lady who I happen to know, and yet she had disclosed that actually the so-called file that she was accused of keeping for too long, she had reported it at the earliest opportunity to a Crown Counsel, but the Crown Counsel was never prosecuted. Look at the case of Canova Watson's personal assistant. She was prosecuted just in the hope that she would talk. Even the judge ended up saying, why do you have this lady here? In the end, they withdrew the charge. Look at the case of Doctors Express. Government officials conspired deliberately to hurt a lawful business, and they were exposed in court, and the judge said that this is improper. And up to now, that business is still struggling to hold people accountable. I can talk about my own case. I proved that a judge had lied about me in 13 emails which were produced in court and are still electronically available. And even the Attorney General and Governor Roper said, hey, look, we express, quote unquote, considerable concern about what this judge has done. So take it to the Grand Court so that it is talked about there. When I took it to the Grand Court, the same people said, no, it is frivolous and vexatious, and have it dismissed. And they had it dismissed and barred me for 3 years from bringing any case relating to the same matter. They never said why they changed their views. It was all nothing but some intervening cause, which I won't get into. So the problem in Cayman is that there is no accountability. The system, for example, of complaining against judges doesn't work, because even with the hard evidence that I had, the Judicial and Legal Service Commission says there is nothing to see here. I'm sorry. We have to do better. Austin and Ellio, just a short addendum to the case of Doctors Express. Right now, it has been publicly reported that the Attorney General hired 2 cases to defend the government in the case of Doctors Express, in a case which is very, very clear that there was something improper done. Again, there were emails to show that this was improper. And yet, government is spending this money. And I don't know even what Public Accounts Committee or Cabinet is doing about it when you are spending the people's money to defend illegality. In my own case, that's why I've been forced to sue the governor and the Attorney General for defamation, because I've said, look, if you won't do your job, your constitutional job of good governance, and ensuring that you act in accordance with public service values of integrity, then I have to go back to court. But unfortunately, I have to go back to these same courts who are unaccountable. This is something that needs to be looked at even from a constitutional perspective, because generally good governance is not working in the Cayman Islands, although we do have some good spots here and there. But generally, this has become a problem. I thank you.
All right. And we
thank you
certainly
too.
are grateful for those comments and for taking the opportunity to share those views with us. Ellio, we're about 2 minutes, 50 seconds before we have to wrap it up. Certainly you took us down this rabbit hole, and very clearly it's emanating not only with me, but certainly also with members of our listening audience, obviously agreeing that it is a matter worthy of mention and ongoing discussion, because we do see, certainly to the last caller's point of view, other cases where we could argue that there is a similar, how should we say, distinction and or the word escapes me right now. It'll come to me probably in the middle of your talk. So, Ellio, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, well, again, I want to, first of all, start by thanking everyone who has... Injustice. I want to thank everyone who has made a contribution to the program. I greatly appreciate it, and again, encourage you. Spread the word. 103.1 is the station to listen to, 4:30 to 6:30, Monday through Friday. But one of those authors, and again, thanking everyone for the contribution, one of them gave, again, the talk about the fact of the Lady Justice. And this Lady Justice that we know in terms of that particular statue is a picture or a statue of a lady. And she's blindfolded. And she's blindfolded holding some scales in her hands. You know, those scales that you use to measure weight, one side of the balance or another. Now, I would like to believe that the scales are tipped one way or another by the weight and the gravity of the argument. Not tipped by how much money goes on one side, not tipped by the color of someone's skin, because again, that is why justice is blind. And she should be judging it based on the weight of the argument. And all I'm saying to you, ladies and gentlemen, is that, you know, we look at all these dictatorships and we look at all these problems that happen in the country. Let's be clear. No one just comes overnight and does these things. You can have a constitution, but if you have no one to enforce it, you just have a piece of paper. You can have laws, and if no one enforces it, you just have a piece of paper. And at the end of the day, we have to understand that a country is destroyed one little piece at a time. And we are seeing it in this country. It is glaringly obvious that persons of color are arguably treated different than persons who are the melanin impoverished. Thank you very much for listening, and hopefully you'll join us tomorrow again for Straight Talk. I'm sure it's going to be another open mic and a wonderful discussion. Hopefully you'll join us.
Absolutely. Thank you to all of those callers who did contribute. Thank you to the listeners who, again, you know, you don't have to call for us to know you're listening, but we do appreciate you tuning in to Straight Talk, and we'll see you tomorrow on Bobo F.
The home of the BBC World Service, the most trusted news source in the world. This is Bobo 103.1. The following commercial messages are brought to you exclusively by Stingray Media.
Health services